Hey, this is John from Alloy 211. Today's video is the further disassembly of the JC Higgins Model 20 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. In this video, we'll be pretty much fully disassembling the shotgun with the exception of the trigger group, because the trigger group has a bunch of fiddly little springs in it and such that are a real pain to put back together, especially on camera. I already had to take it apart once when I first purchased the shotgun, and it needed all cleaned out because it was all gunked up. The trigger was frozen, the safety was frozen. So unless someone were to really specifically need the trigger group taken apart, I am going to avoid that because it's a pain. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is remove the magazine support screw right here at the front of the magazine tube. Go ahead and zoom in on that. It's just a flat-headed screw. The appropriate flat-headed screwdriver. Go ahead and take it out. Try to make sure your screw, the driver head doesn't drag against the support, because it is aluminum, so this will scrape it up. I mean, I'm sure that that's a big consideration. We'll go ahead and set this screw to the side. I'm sure that's a big consideration with your, say, $100 shotgun, but still, let's try to keep it kind of nice. Next thing we're going to do is remove the magazine cap, which it has two screws here on the bottom. They could also be on the top, depending on how someone has put it back together. And as you can see right there, there's the notch that the screw for the support slides in, so it does align itself right there on the front of the tube. So let's go ahead and make sure you keep pressure on the cap, because if you don't, as you take it out, the spring will shoot the cap across the room. And also these screws are really pretty small, so make sure you set those someplace they're not going to go rolling off the table into a dark corner where you won't ever find them again, and then you'll have to order some more, which really no one wants to have to do. Okay. Again, keeping pressure on the magazine cap, you know, because you don't want the spring to shoot it out. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Back to the little screw thing again, you know, that's a good way to lose those little screws. Now go ahead and just leave the pressure, magazine spring. There is the cap, and well, the spring just rolled out of frame there. Okay, now we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and tilt the shotgun up so that we can drop the plug out, and hey, it didn't fall on the ground. That's pretty nifty. Okay, now, well, while we're here, zoom in, we're going to go ahead and take the cap nut off the end of the forend. Keeps it in place. Now there is a spanner wrench that is made for this. As you can see, it's got a flat on both sides. I don't have that wrench, so I'm going to be using my trusty Mosin Nagant tool. Now, one of the things with this is this does not need to be Herculeanly tightened on here. It just needs to be kind of finger tight, and then just a little push with something like this will make it tight enough to function. Really, you should have the tool to do it. I don't, and so I'll use this for now. I'll probably end up making something to do it right at some point later. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a little turn. As I said, I just keep it a little bit more than finger tight on there. Now, I could do this after I remove the trigger group, but since we're already here, let's go ahead and do it now. Okay, there's that. I'll set that off to the side. And I could unscrew the magazine tube, but I'm going to hold off on that until we pull the trigger group out and the bottom of the bolt. So let's widen our shot back out a bit and move to the receiver. Okay, you just have a single receiver pin right here at the back of the trigger group. Just going to take and push on that with a punch, and it just pushes right out. It shouldn't have a lot of tension against it, just a little bit. When you pull that out, if you notice it, well, this particular pin has a side with a head on it that fits into a recess right here on the side of the receiver, so it does go in one way, not the other. Anyway, go ahead and pull that out. The trigger group tips forward, and that little bar will also fall out. This keeps the casing, or keeps the shells in the magazine as the action moves back and forth. It's actually kind of a cool design because it tips. There we go. As the bolt pushes this up and down, it holds the cartridges in the magazine tube to allow the proper cycling of the rounds, you know, so you don't have rounds just shooting out of the magazine as the lifter moves up and down. That's kind of neat, but it will fall out. You know, as soon as you pull this thing out, it's going to fall out. So anyway, now we've got the trigger group out, set that off to the side. Now we're going to slide the pump back to where there are these two notches in the receiver. They'll allow us to pull the bottom of the bolt off, which, remember, the ramp part goes forward. This little notch right here is what catches the action bar. So we'll go ahead and set that off to the side. Now we can go ahead and zoom back out. And now we're going to remove the magazine tube, because in order to remove the front pump, or the pump, and the action bar, we need to remove the magazine tube, which it just simply unscrews. Again, much like the cap nut on the forend, you don't really want this too tight. Now, I shouldn't have to put too much pressure on this there we go, to loosen it up. And in fact, when I tighten this in here, I don't use any sort of leverage on it. I just get it in there finger tight. You'll kind of notice it'll lose a bit of the wiggle, at least on this one. It'll have a little bit of wiggle, but then you'll kind of get it in there just tight, and most of the wiggle is gone. And that's about as tight as it needs to be. How about we continue to unscrew it rather than start screwing it back in. Anyway, that's as tight as it needs to be. It's not, this magazine tube isn't going to go shooting off the gun when you're firing it because you didn't tighten it in tight enough. If it were to even start loosening while you're using it, I'm sure you would notice before that happened. So again, don't over tighten it. Now that's just held on here by this flat coiled spring around the forend. Just slides in there. There we go. Set that off to the side as well. Now you've got a pretty stripped shotgun here. We just need to pull the guts out of the receiver. Well, we already pulled some of the guts. I don't know, maybe we pulled the lungs. Now we've got the heart. Anyway, now you go ahead and lift the lifter up like that. You can remove the bolt through the same cutouts in the receiver that we removed the bottom portion of the bolt. The lifter you can just squeeze together. It's got two round, there we go, two little round pins there that fit into there. Let me get something to kind of point out. You know what, I'll just use this, it works pretty well. Right in there, see, we got one there, you got one there, and that's what the lifter sits on. Now we'll go ahead and flip this on its side, and we will pull out the ejector, which is just screwed into the side of the receiver. This flat-headed screw right here. And that just unscrews. Now there's another part that I'm not actually going to take out, but I will show you how to take it out. And there is the ejector. So, and the other part I'm not going to take out, but I'll show you how to take out, is the other shell the other catch for the shells at the end of the magazine tube. Now the reason why I'm not going to take it out is because it is kind of a pain in the butt to get back in, because there's a little spring down underneath here, and so it is a pain to line up, and especially when you're trying to do it on camera. But the reason why I want to address it is because you may think this is some sort of pin that needs to be punched out or something of that nature, but it's actually a very, very small flat-headed screw. Oh, let's see. That's small. So you'll need a very small flat-headed screwdriver to get in there, and I'll go ahead and back it out some, just to prove it is a flat-headed screw, not a pin. Which, that was nice to discover with this, because it's so gunked up that, whoop, let's back off a bit, because it was so gunked up that you couldn't tell. Now you can see there it is a flat-headed screw. So yeah, if you do have to remove that, it is a flat-headed screw. It is a pain in the butt, but it can be done. Like I said, I'm not going to do it right now because those are the sort of little fiddly things that really bog a video down. So we're going to go ahead and screw that back in. We'll set the receiver and the barrel off to the side for the moment while we pull some pins out of the bolt. We'll go ahead and grab our little nylon headed hammer that we got in our recent punch set and see which one of the punches do I want. I want the one that is straight. Okay, now you have extractor here, this little portion here, and a pin here for the firing pin. So we'll go ahead and take out the right side extractor, which is just a pin. You just maybe zoom in. There we go. Just pound that straight down. I mean, it should really pound out pretty easily. There we go, it's almost out. There we go, it's out. You'll leave your punch in there, so that way the extractor doesn't go shooting out, because it is spring loaded. Go ahead and take your thumb and push in on it, so that way the spring doesn't shoot out. Pull your punch out. There you go. You got a little spring here, which fits into a pocket there, and there is a pocket down in the bolt. So that's kind of nice. You have 2 points of alignment, so it makes it pretty easy. Go ahead and set that off to the side as well. Now we're going to go ahead and pull out the extractor on the left side. Same thing, it's just a pin. It is also spring loaded. The front portion is, the rear portion is not. See if I can get this set on here in a way that's, there we go. Or maybe not. Everything becomes much more difficult when you're trying to do it on camera. There we go. Okay. Now. Oh, almost. I thought maybe I could push it out. I pushed it out before without having to pound it out. And also, you want to make sure you keep your pins with the pieces they came with. Okay? Same deal as last time. Keep your punch in place. Push in on it. It is spring loaded. Pull your punch out. Release it. Now this doesn't have any sort of pocket on the back of it for the spring. So, but there is one down in the bolt. I'll take the other portion out behind it. Now this is a short pin, so you can actually you can actually pound them out either way. So again, same deal, although this one's not spring loaded, so really not a big problem with that. I'm going to set that to the side along with its pin. Now we have the firing pin, which is spring loaded. So you'll want to make sure you keep your finger on it when you're pounding the pin out, as you don't want to have the firing pin go shooting out of the back of the bolt. Now, you can just pound it out through this side. I don't know, this little hammer makes me feel kind of like an elf. So, not too thrilled with that. There we go. The pin's out. Now go ahead and push in on the firing pin so that way you're holding pressure on it. Pull your punch out, slowly release that. Then there's your firing pin and firing pin spring. Which when I purchased this, it was so gunked up inside that that channel was full. And there's your pin. Make sure you keep that all together. And here, go ahead and zoom out. there is essentially the JC Higgins Model 20 12 gauge pump action shotgun and its many little bits and pieces. Okay, now let's go ahead and take this pile of stuff and put it back together into hopefully a functioning firearm. It will be a functioning firearm, probably. Okay, go ahead and start back right where we left off with the bolt. So we're going to take the firing pin and the firing pin spring, get them in focus, insert them into the back of the bolt, like so, making sure to keep that channel up because that is where the pin slides through. Now you're going to want to go ahead and push that in, and for now if you want you can go ahead and push punch through. That'll keep the firing pin in place. If you say didn't grab your block and your pin and get those all where they should be beforehand, go ahead and pull that out. Now if you look you'll see that the pin, if I can get into focus, and it's kind of hard to see. It's got a little bit of knurling on this end, so you want to put this slightly tapered end. If I again can get it into focus, there we go. Put that into the side of the bolt, like so. And it'll probably take a bit of a tap to get it started. Just make sure you keep tension on the firing pin as you do this, because you want that to line up with the slot. You don't want to start pounding that into the side of the firing pin. And then that just, it just drives itself. Maybe you just drive it in. It's not going to drive itself. So go ahead and keep tapping that in. There we go. And there we go. Firing pin's in place. Firing pin, punch. Firing pin works. Yay! Okay, now we'll go exactly in reverse order of how we were. Go ahead and put the back portion of the left-hand side extractor on. Again, get that into focus. There we go. Goes just like that. And as you can see, it's got that radius portion there that just dips into the bolt. Oh, while we're here, I want to point out something on the bolt that was kind of disheartening. As you can see, this metal right here is missing. And that's not something that happened through wear. That was just in the machining process. It got too thin and it got machined out. You can kind of tell by the way it's cut. That's not broken. It just the machining, it got too thin. And that's not too cool. I mean, obviously it's not a super strength portion of the bolt that you have to worry about, but still, that is not a good thing to see. But with all the wear on the shotgun, and you don't really see any more wear or metal failing there, it's probably a non-critical area, but still, it's like, wow, that is a little thin. Anyway, anyway, back to putting it back together. So go ahead and slide this in. There we go. And then this pin is just like the bigger pins, knurled at the top. It doesn't really have much of a taper on the bottom, but it's okay. Now if you have a problem aligning this, you can take the punch and stick it in through the bottom to get it aligned, but you just kind of fiddle it into place and it slides in pretty easily, as you can see. And then just, you don't, again, with most things, you don't need to just pound it, you know, heavily in. You just need to get it so it's flush with the bolt. You can see it's proud of the bolt right there. You just want it in there just flush. So pound that in. There we go. Now that's in. Now we're going to go ahead and put the front portion in, starting with the spring into the pocket. And then that. It's also got a little radius area there where the pin goes in. Slide it in. This one is a little trickier than the non-spring loaded one, obviously. Pin's the same. Go ahead and put that in the bottom, and usually you can get it to start sliding in without having to pound it. There we go. Now that's in, and again, as you can see, it's proud of the surface. We just want to get it in there flush. So tap, tap, tap. That's in. You can see it's not protruding out of the bottom. Well, now you can see. So that's just how you want it. Go ahead and put the other side on. Okay. Got extractor. Whoa. Spring. Pocket. Pocket. Don't put that spring in your pocket, because I don't know if you've ever put a small spring into your pocket. It's really not the best idea. I've done it, and then it gets all wound up in like the thread in the bottom of the pocket. It gets full of lint. It's just a pain in the butt. Okay, pin just like the other ones. Go ahead and slide that guy in there. There we go. And for the third time, fourth time actually, just go ahead and pound it in there flush. There we go. Make sure it's not protruding out anywhere it shouldn't be. There we go. It's all back together. Ooh, yay, back together. Okay, now I'll go ahead and grab the receiver. Put the ejector back in. Maybe get that into a frame. That would be a wise idea. Not crush the other parts I have sitting here, or knock them across the table. Okay. It just, as you can see, it's shaped very much in the way shaped in the way that it goes. So it's kind of like a puzzle piece. Fits right there. Just want to be careful, you know, with anything when you're screwing it into a firearm, especially the receiver. You don't want to cross thread it. Don't want to force it. I mean, I'll give it this. This is not nearly as hard to do if you're not trying to kind of let people see what you're doing. Okay, there you go. It's just in place. Take your flat-headed screwdriver and, well, don't do that. Don't do that, because that's a pain in the butt. You know, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slide this into place. And then, because this is a magnetic tip screwdriver, I'm going to take the screw and put it on the end of the screwdriver. Wow, technology. Magnets. How do they work? Anyway, there we go. In there, again, don't need to, you know, just really screw that thing in there. Just get it good and tight. Doesn't have to be super tight. Okay. Now that we've completed that portion of it, we'll go ahead and grab the bolt, drop it down in there, just slides in there. You do want to make sure it gets in, maybe, hey, let's redo that. Okay. Pull it back out. We'll zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better what's going on. Again, right into these sides of the cutouts in the receiver, drop it in. You want to make sure you're getting it behind the ejector. So, there we go. Just slide it in. There you go. Now that's in. And now we're going to take our lifter. Make sure you put your lifter in the right way, not upside down, because it will go in upside down. So go ahead and put that in. You just squeeze it together and you can slide it down into the receiver. You want to make sure, like I just did, there's the rails that the bolt rides in. You don't want to get it in there. You want to get it into the actual, where the pins go. So squeeze it. There you go. There you go. And it's in. And, well, if I had gotten it in there. There we go. Now, there we go. The top of the bolt, it kind of wiggled off to the side a little bit, so when I went to push the lifter down in, it got caught. So anyway, now that's in. Now we're going to go ahead and put our pump and our magazine tube back on. Slide that on there. Jeez. Just pump, magazine tube, slide on there. Sometimes it'll hit. There you go. It's good. Now, flip the receiver back up. And you have a light right there. You have a little cutout right here in the receiver where the action bar goes in. Move our light kind of back in place. I'll go ahead and slide this. Ooh, look at that. Slide this in there, just like that. It can only go in one way, so pretty safe there. And there we go. And screw the magazine tube in. Now I'm just doing this by hand. I'm just out here, screw it in. And like I said, right up until it gets to where it's tight, it's kind of got wobble. Well, it's got a lot of wobble if you look at there. But once it gets tight, that wobble's pretty much gone. And once it's that tight, it is tight. You don't really need to tighten it down anymore. So, okay, now that we've got that in place, we'll go ahead and take the bottom of the bolt. Remember, the ramp portion goes forward. You want the top of the bolt just about there. And this cutout here interacts with the action bar, which is right there. As you can see, action bar, action bar. Just kind of place that towards the front of that cutout in the receiver. Drop this down in, and then there you go. Just push the top portion of the bolt forward. Well, don't do that, because there you go. Now it's in place. See? Works. Although you don't really want to do this too much till you get the rest of it back together. Now we're going to go ahead and put the cap nut back on the forend. And when you do this, you want to make sure you push the pump all the way back to the receiver. That way the wooden handguard is all the way back to where it needs to be. Because it will, see if I can get it to do it without, there we go. It will slide forward on the action bar assembly. So you want it to be back as far as it can be. And the easiest way to do that is to make sure you've pushed it back up against the receiver. Because you really don't want to get this on here and then have to just thread it down to take up that slack, because it is a pain in the butt, maybe because I did it once. Anyway, just go ahead and screw it on there. Again, you don't really need to get a whole lot more than finger tight. So I'm just going to get it on there, and especially once you've pulled the wood all the way back like that. There we go. I'm going to use my Mosin tool, and what I'm going to do is just press against one side of this. You know, I mean, it's pretty simple. You'll be able to see how to do it. But I am not going to tighten it any more than I have to. So there we go. Now that's tight. That's going to be tight. So we're good. Let's go ahead and zoom back out. Okay. Slide that forward. Everything's working. Pump's not coming off the end of the shotgun, so all seems pretty good. Now, going to go ahead and put the shell holder back into place on the side of the receiver. You want to wait till you're about to put the trigger assembly back into place before you put this in. And because if you don't, it'll keep wanting to fall out. So it's one of the reasons why you leave it out until you right to this point. So now that we've gotten that into place, zoom back in. You're going to go ahead and take your trigger assembly, which you've got horns on the front. Well, this has one horn on the front. You should have two. This one only has one. It's had one broken off, but it actually still stays in there nice and tight. So you'll go ahead and tip that into these cutouts. Right here you have one here and one here. This is where that shell holder goes. Go ahead and tip it back up, and that just tips in front and to back like so, and you have the portion of the back that lines up in the stock, and it might be a little hard to push in, but it should just go right in. And then once you get that in, you kind of have to maybe do a little bit of alignment, put this pin right here. Oh, there we go. Now that's in place. Almost done. Now we're going to go ahead, grab the magazine spring, going to put the plunger right there on it, slide it in to the end of the tube here. Okay, once you get that in place, and let tension off of it. Now go ahead and take your cap, slide it onto the end of your spring, then push that into the end of your magazine tube. Again, making sure to keep consistent pressure on it, least you have the spring shoot out across the room. Then go ahead and take your little screws, get those started in there. Okay, and again, you want to make sure you don't cross thread them or anything silly like that. None of us want cross-threaded screws. And again, don't over tighten them. Okay, there we go. Now that's in place. Now go ahead and slide the band back to right there. Now once that's lined up, you'll be able to just drop this screw right through. There we go. Go ahead and grab our flat-headed screwdriver once again. And again, stated earlier, that's aluminum, so you don't want to drag your screwdriver, your tip, against it. You know, unless you want to screw up the finish on your high-end $100 pawn shop shotgun. I mean, I guess you could always just get a can of like Rust-Oleum and do it up. You wouldn't really be hurting the value of it, but it looks way better without the Rust-Oleum, I think. Okay, we're gonna take a look here. Oh, seems to be functioning. Now, we're not gonna test fire this in the basement, as that would be loud, irresponsible, and, well, it'd be kind of fun, but it'd be loud and irresponsible, so we wouldn't do that. So, anyway, hope you found that video informative, and hopefully if you have one of these shotguns apart, that helps you get it back together. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate a like. If you watch some of my other videos and you enjoy those too, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. So, thanks again and have a great day.